Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of The Pitch. I am Eli from Nintendo Enthusiast, and this week we have a few questions to talk about, and then we'll move into some Japanese sales. Also, the holidays are coming up. That's pretty big, so we can talk about all of that. Beginning with questions. Granddad Gamer writes, "Love the show. Do you think more applications should be made to incorporate the gamepad? On the Nintendo 64 DD, there were a few studio titles that would work well with the gamepad. Ultimately, do agree that gamepad needs more unique uses to help the Wii U ship more units." I'm going to be honest on this one. I don't think the gamepad should have unique uses for the third-party end anyway. Because simply, if, for example, Ubisoft is porting something to the Wii U, such as Watch Dogs, we don't want them spending extra time on making sure the gamepad works with the Wii U in a sort of unique or new way. We don't really need that, and if it's going to result in a 6-month delay like what we've seen with Watch Dogs, I don't want it. I want it out on release date, on par with other consoles. Obviously, we're not getting tons of third-party games anymore, but we are getting stuff like Lego, Skylanders, Disney Infinity. Those are just to name a few examples. And the point is, these games, if the developers are spending extra time just using the gamepad, it's not going to pay off for the developers. And if they're not seeing a payoff, then it's not necessarily guaranteed that we're going to see their next game on the console. So I don't think that the problem with the Wii U is the fact that not enough games use the gamepad. I think that there's a larger problem in the whole perception of the Wii U, and I don't think it's going to be solved by saying, well, look, we got Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, but it's got special gamepad features, and that's why you should buy it for the Wii U. I don't think that's going to really work out, and as we've seen with previous titles where the gamepad is actually used extensively, it's not really helping sales. I mean, Rayman Legends sold decently on the Wii U, and it did have a lot of gamepad-specific features that you couldn't really get on the PS3 or PS4 when it eventually came to that system. However, if you're looking at something like Splinter Cell Blacklist or some of the other third-party titles that have actually used the Wii U gamepad, or Call of Duty, where you could have one person on the TV, one person playing on the gamepad, you know, it's not selling units, it's not selling Wii U's, and ultimately I think there's a bigger issue in the works than whether developers are completely utilizing the gamepad or not. It's Nintendo's job to prove the gamepad. I don't think it's the job of other developers. So I think there's a bit stark contrast there. I think that it's Nintendo's role to go and use the gamepad in unique new ways to encourage users to buy the system, and then and only then if a third-party studio decides that, oh, this is actually a good idea, it helps our game instead of just being something extra or obligatory, then I think it's a good idea. Next question comes from Ahmed Hazuki, who asks, "Do you think that Nintendo would be in a better position with third parties regarding the Wii U if they lowered the licensing fees?" This is a good question. So for those who don't know, licensing fees, you know, when a company like Ubisoft, for example, sells Watch Dogs on the Wii U, they don't get all the profits. A large amount of it goes into actually making the case, you know, a good amount actually goes to the retailer, but also Nintendo charges a certain amount of money for each game that comes to the Wii U that isn't a Nintendo game. So for example, each game that Ubisoft brings over the Wii U, they have to pay like I think it's $8 or $10 for each CD case, and pretty much the licensing fee to put it on the Wii U. And honestly, I think that, as this poster probably does, that it defers people to other systems. You know, if Ubisoft knows that, hey, it costs $1 million to port this thing to the Wii U, like with Watch Dogs, and then we have to pay an extra 10% of our profits to Nintendo just for having it on their system, it's not going to be worth the cost of porting if we have to actually pay this licensing fee. So I think this idea is actually a really good one. If it were me in charge of Nintendo, what I would do is I'd say, alright, it costs $1 million to port your game to the Wii U. Here's what we'll do for you. Up until that $1 million threshold, we will cover any of your losses, and more importantly, you don't have to pay any licensing fees. So what this would do is, let's say a company wants to bring Tomb Raider, for example, to the Wii U, and it cost them, I don't know, $1 million, as I said before, to make this port, and it only made $600,000 back. Then Nintendo would cover that difference and pay $400,000 to encourage Square Enix, no risk, to release that game on the Wii U, because we know it made money on the other consoles. That's why they keep making these remakes. No guarantee guarantee it's going to make money on the Wii U, so Nintendo needs to guarantee at least a break even. That's my opinion anyway. I think that they need to take away licensing fees up until the threshold. So after that $1 million, after the break-even point, Nintendo could start pulling in licensing fees again, but I think that there needs to be less risk on the Wii U. Companies aren't releasing their games because they're afraid they're not going to sell because of the small install base. Nintendo needs to prove that it's in it for the long haul, it's in it for the third parties, and if I was in charge of Nintendo, which, you know, I'm not, and I may be stupid, but I would say, alright, you know, Shadow of Mordor is coming out. We will pay, I forgot who's developing Shadow of Mordor. We will pay that company to $1 million or whatever dollars, or whatever difference they lose in order to have that game on the Wii U. What this does is eventually you get this perception gone. All third parties will be coming to the Wii U. When people are like, oh, hey, I don't know, I'm thinking of an upcoming game that's coming out next year. The Crew. Oh, coming out in December. Is The Crew coming to Wii U? It's not just going to be like, oh, no, it never come to the Wii U. It'd be like, yes, it's coming to the Wii U. And it's coming to the Wii U because the Wii U is a next-gen system, and it will have all of the other games on the Wii U. Now, it's not just going to be a process where, oh, you know, we're going to cover the losses, we're going to make it easy to port. You also, like, for The Crew, for example, you need to have a robust online infrastructure to support something like The Crew. You know, it needs to be there, and there needs to be voice chat, and there needs to be, you know, Watch Dogs has voice chat, which is really good for them, but there needs to be an online system there for third parties to take advantage of, and that's how their games are going to be successful, or at least break even. I don't think third parties are really looking for success on the Wii U at this point. Alright, and let's move on to Japanese sales. And 3DS and new 3DS is still doing really well, sold more than 60,000 units last week. Wii U saw a pretty big jump, well, relative. It went up from about 5,000 units per week to 14,000 units. That's a pretty big jump, and about 10,000 week over week. And a lot of people, I mean, that's 300% of what it sold before. I still am not content with these sales. I think the Wii U should be selling this much, if not more, every week. It's not just like just during the holidays you should be selling this much. That's not the way it works. Obviously, Smash came out, and I think that's going to move more Wii U's, but we'll have to see how many that moves and how long they can sustain momentum. If January, you know, 15th rolls around and we see that the Wii U went down to 4,000, 5,000 units again, that's not beneficial for Nintendo. You know, just if they have 1 month where they have solid growth, and after that everything falls off. The one major Nintendo release was Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. I mean, I don't think anyone expected this game to do amazing in Japan. It sold almost 30,000 units. It was at 28,025. I guess that's decent. I'm sure that most of the sales from that game will actually come from North America, even though it's coming out in December here. And overall, I mean, I don't know if anyone really expected it to do gangbusters in Japan. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. That's the show for this week. Please, please, please leave your viewer questions in the comment section below. I'll address as many as I can. And if you have any concerns, any sort of feedback whatsoever, I'd love to hear that as well. Make sure to check NintendoEnthusiast.com for all the latest news, reviews, etc. I'm actually reviewing Alpha Sapphire, and that review will be up at one point. I only just received the code for that. And thanks everyone for watching. See you guys next week.